Hi guys, welcome to Equilibrium Live with me, Sarah Téibo. Now, for those of you who've been following me since the start of the year, you're probably familiar with me coming on your screen somehow on social media every Thursday with a 1-minute quick fire nugget on some topic around music business and music ministry and finding the balance between the two. Now, recently, I've thought about extending or expanding this beyond just 1 minute and also getting some experts to talk about some specific topics that hopefully you would find relevant. Today, I'm joined by some special guests. I have Adegail, who owns a platform, or should I say heads a platform supporting independent artists called iRadiate, and she's equally an independent artist in her own right. I also have Audrey from GMIA, an artist developer and somebody who's worked with me at the very start of my music career as well. And we also would be having later on in the course of the day, Charisse Beaumont from Black Lives in Music. So it's going to be a power-packed, information-packed session. Do not go anywhere. Get some tea and biscuits, get some popcorn and orange juice. Share the link with people on Facebook and YouTube, and let's get the conversation going. So without further ado, I'm going to let my guest today give a brief introduction about themselves, what makes you tick, what you do in music, what you do in life. And if you had the opportunity, let's say the whole world got abducted by aliens and they were dishing out superpowers to everyone, what would be your ideal superpower? So I'll probably start with Adegail.
Wow, that's a great question. So hi guys, I'm Adegail. I'm a singer-songwriter and a YouTuber, and I also founded a platform called iRadiate because of the knowledge gap, which was very obvious. We exist to empower, equip, encourage, and educate indie artists. So we've been doing that for a few years. And yeah, if I had a superpower, oh my gosh, I have no idea. If I had a superpower, I would probably have lots of knowledge, I guess instantaneous knowledge. So that I don't
Fair
have
enough.
to research, I don't have to, I just know it. Not a great answer, but yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Welcome, Charisse. We're just about starting introducing ourselves. And what I've said is for everyone to, introduce themselves, talk about what makes you tick. But in addition to that, if you could have a superpower, what would that be? So I'm going to go to Audrey while you get some time to think about your answer. So Audrey.
Okay. So my name is Audrey Gray. I've been working in the gospel music industry for over 15 years, working with various artists and providing various services from like event production, tour management, bookings, etc. Recently, in January, I became the CEO of GMIA, the Gospel Music Industry Alliance. And so I've been beavering away to get that moving. And we're definitely on a journey to fill that knowledge gap. Superpower wise, you know what? I think I'd like to be able to manipulate time, because I think that's what you. Yeah, I think that might be it. To manipulate time.
You know, you took my one. I was actually going to say you fully took my one. See, great minds think
of something else.
Well, the equivalent that would be time traveling, maybe something like that, or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say a character. I was like Doctor Strange, because he can travel through time, go in different places and stuff like that. But yeah, I get that.
Cool, excellent. Will, Charisse.
Sorry, interrupt. No,
it's cool.
I apologize. You just had a good one, that's why. Yeah, I'm Charisse Beaumont, CEO of Black Lives in Music. We are a organization that works for diversity and equity and inclusion in the music industry. Prior to that, I had a management company and record label called Preacher Boy Music. You may have heard of some of the artists on the label.
Yep.
Jahardel, Esso, Tiz, GP, who's a crazy producer. If you guys are looking, knowledge gap, if you guys are looking for the best music that will get you out there, holler at Divine Music GP. That's his handle. And yeah, we just had a great time in the gospel music a while ago now, 10, 15 years. And it was a wonderful ride. God took us around the world, and we did some good stuff. But now I'm part of another journey, which is the same, which is advocacy and changing lives through our gifts. And that's it.
Very impactful. And your superpower would be?
I said it already. I'll be Dr. Strange.
Same one. Fair enough.
Yeah, same one. That's the best one. Time travel and being able to get into different rooms so you can be nosy,
finding out
what's going on. Get that knowledge up.
Yeah, I remember I asked somebody that question once, and their response was a superpower would be to hear people when they're on mute on Zoom.
Oh wow! Wow.
I was like, that's creepy, isn't it? You want to hear when people go on mute. Carry on. You want to carry on hearing what they're saying. But that's today's so theme actually kind of, that's really cool. And well, I don't want to have that part because I'm sure there's certain things that are left on that are best unheard. But today's topic, as we've kind of alluded to, is closing the knowledge gap within the Christian and gospel music scene. Now, I'm very passionate about sharing knowledge. I'm very passionate about sharing information on platforms, resources, individuals, anything that we can do to grow, because one of the things that I've kind of identified, and this came off the back of last week's Equilibrium, it was the first time we'd actually have Equilibrium live, and that was a conversation around radio versus streaming, and would radio actually carry on being relevant, say 10 years down the line. So for example, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and I know if she sees a transistor radio or any kind of gadget that's called radio today, she'll be wondering what on earth. The only way she ever listens to radio is when we're in the car. And over time, as she grows and becomes an adult, would she carry on listening to radio, And I was just thinking about, as an artist, an independent artist who's looking at a marketing plan, a marketing strategy, how do I allocate resources to these different marketing platforms or media platforms? And that really kind of stemmed the conversation we had last week. Now, in the course of the conversation, it came to light. I mean, the radio show presenters and radio show hosts kept on highlighting certain habits and practices that were probably unhealthy for artists, which kind of showcased or highlighted a bit of a knowledge gap. So I thought, you know what, let's take on these topics, one theme after the other, and see how we can, address potentially and also empower and enable. So it's all about pointing people in the direction where they can go to get answers, to get resources, to get help. And we need help in so many ways, because to start with, today's independent artist is not likely to get a record deal. So today's independent artist needs to think like a label to be successful. We can't just go out, release music and walk away. We need to think business, we need to think strategy, and that requires a lot of knowledge. So that's why I've got you guys on today. And I think the first question I'll be asking, and I'm already seeing nodding, so I kind of sense the answer to this question is going to be yes. But on a scale of 1 to 10, should I say, how big do you think the knowledge gap is within the Christian slash gospel music scene? I'll probably start with Audrey, because I feel like you already have an idea of what that gauge would look like.
You see that think bubble over my head, that needle that's jumping. See, I've worked with a lot of artists, and so I've seen them at different levels, at different points of their career, and there's always something amiss. So while you might have some that are like fully versed in their music rights, they may not understand like contracts, or so there's always a gap. I think, I don't want to say a safe 7, but I'd say an 8. Oh wow, that's massive. Up there. It is up there.
That is massive. Okay,
it's up there. I think people they grab knowledge when they need it, as opposed to going to collect the whole basket. You need the whole basket, because you need to know what's going to happen next, and what's going to happen after that, and what's happening after that. So rather than that, you just, okay, I need to distribute my music. Let me find out, how do I get my music on Spotify? And I can just Google that. But there's so much more information around the inner workings of that. Why you should go and get your own IRC code. Why should you own? I mean, all these other little things. So I think it is up there. And as you said, that a lot more artists are not going to get labeled, not going to be signed to a label. A lot more artists don't want to be signed to a label. So then for that reason alone, you need to understand the entirety of the business.
That's a very good point. Very valid point. Adegail, do you agree that it's around 8, or do you think it's probably lower than that?
Yeah, I think when you first asked the question, I think 7 came to mind.
Okay.
I work a lot with, I guess, the younger sort of artists in terms of the events that we do. We see a lot of, I guess 20s, late teens, early 20s. And you definitely, it almost surprises me sometimes, things that people don't know. And so I think yeah, it's definitely around 7. There's a lot of knowledge that to be had, and a lot more that people know. And so I think it's a yeah. Sometimes you just almost have to spoon feed knowledge because people just don't know that they need to know this information. I think everything seems okay on the surface. It's like, okay, well, it's on the platform. Great, I've dropped it. It's written by the Holy Spirit or whatever. And so I think people tend to over spiritualize things at times and then forget the practical. And I think that's to this problem of it. So yeah.
Right. That's valid. Over spiritualizing things is something I was going to come to later, because it kind of conflicts sometimes with the criticality of acquiring knowledge. We have to sometimes get the balance right. But Charisse, I don't know what your thoughts are on the 7-8 kind of number.
I'm just going to jump on what you guys have said. You guys have hit the nail on the head, in my view. It is definitely around 9.
Wow,
9.
that's massive.
I'm not even trying to be controversial because there's still stuff that I don't know. And I've been in it a minute, and because the music ecosystem changes rapidly, you kind of have to keep up. You got to understand where the music industry is going and how that affects you. And in my view, and this might be controversial, one thing you've touched on is the over spiritualizing. I can't wait to get to that part. The next, but I won't go there, but I will say, amongst the Black community as well as Christians, gospel community, there is that knowledge gap. And one thing you need to ask yourself, from out the gate, if you want to make a career out of this, is where's the money? Like, where are the funnels, where's the channels of where the money? How do I monetize what I'm doing? And that kind of allows you to dig up and learn. Another thing is, and I won't go too much, but understanding your worth as well. Your followers. So the young people today, they know how to YouTube, they know how to get the followers. So some of the young people go 12 million hits on their song, and some not so much as well, just to get a balance. But people living and worshipping to your music on a Sunday or whatever, listen and worshipping to your song. How do you monetize that? Do you have the mindset to monetize that? And that's where it comes in. That's when you start to learn about the contracts, learning about streaming fees, learning about the best platform to earn the money from. So that way you can link it, maybe having your own platform, maybe not even going on the Spotify, but actually having your own streaming platform, and understanding how the business works in regards to rights and stuff like that. And what we could be saying can sound a bit overwhelming, but it's worth it, because I've been there. You put your whole energy into something, and when you start looking at, okay, I've got my passion and I've got my money. Those are my passion's the only thing fueling it right now. And after a while, that passion would run dry if you can't pay the bills.
That's right. That is so true.
So from out the gate, any young people listening to this, anyone coming into the industry, young or old, but entering into the industry, or you're already established, you're entering into the industry, you're entering into the business. From your song is on Spotify, you're in the industry. Learn the industry. Learn what you're getting into. So 9, only because of the way the ecosystem's going, it's extremely high.
And I think that's an interesting point you've raised, because when you said 9, I literally pictured 1, and I pictured 1 being bare minimum, and even that bare minimum seems to be stagnant. So 1 or 2, right, is the amount of knowledge potentially artists have. And I wanted to find out what your thoughts are on, not to say we should stay there, by the way, but some artists don't even have that bare minimum, because even that 1 or 2 is for a vast majority of people. There are some who don't have the bare minimum. I've been asked, and not to say this is anything, I'm not saying there's no such thing as a stupid question, I always say to people, but I've been asked by somebody, I've literally recorded my song, now what next? Like, how do I put it on Spotify? And I would have actually reverse engineered that and actually found out how to do that before I even start creating, because you're creating a product, you need to know the market. It's just like saying I want to start selling apples. You don't buy all the apples and then figure out which do I go to Deptford or do I go to Shoreditch. It's like you already know you're going to sell it on Camden High Street, so then you go buy the apples. But it seems like we do it the other way around. We create the music and okay, where? So but I think the first question I'll probably pose to you guys is, in your opinion, what do you think is the bare minimum? Not to stay there, but at least what are the basic things that an artist should know before they even go into studio and say, I'm going to create a song?
Okay, who's going to take that?
I'll take you, Audrey. The only reason I say that is because I've worked with you and you are extremely knowledgeable. You've worked with so many artists. Not to say no one else is on the panel, but because I kind of know the kind of things that you've done with artists.
Charisse is my hero.
You start from scratch. So, absolutely. So then it feeds off. Then it all feeds off. But let's see what your thoughts are. I'm coming around to everyone anyway.
So you're asking what the bare minimum is?
Yeah. Oh,
see, I can't do bare minimum. I think they're missing an entrepreneurial spirit to start with.
Right.
If you have that spirit, then that means you're going to work at your project as if it's a project, which means you're going to work backwards. You're not going to work forwards. You're going to think the end product from the beginning, and then you're going to work your way backwards to build that product. So before you start, that means you're going to know how many songs are going to be on there, what the theme of the album is, what it's going to look like, what the artwork's going to be. You're going to think like a label. They think of the end product first. I think we don't think of what we're doing as a project. And I think that's something innate in entrepreneurs, maybe, or I think
business, really,
in us that we just get up and do. I think we struggle with our passion for so long that you hear your mum telling you better go and get a real job for so long.
Yeah.
That when you get up to do it, you just activate. So you don't think about the theory behind why you're doing it. Like I went back to university after opening 3 businesses because I wanted to know why was it working. Why is it working?
What makes it work?
Exactly. And only the theory would give me that. So you say bare minimum, but really there is no bare minimum. If I was going to put 3 components together, I would say you have to have somebody doing marketing, a really great producer. I'm assuming you're already a great songwriter because that's a whole different show.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're already a great songwriter. So I would say someone doing marketing, someone doing producing, and somebody that understands business mechanism, right? So booking systems and contracts and all that. So how they're going to present you to the public. It's very difficult for me to say.
That's interesting because here's the thing, though. I'd say I don't know if an artist starting out can have those individuals, because when I started out, I was on the phone to somebody and I was asking questions around management and having a booking agent. And one of the things she said to me was, no one is going to be interested in you if you do not already have a following or some sort of clout. So talking about you having somebody to do your marketing and all of that, they're not going to want to work for somebody who's starting from ground zero. So
but
to a degree,
a lot of people in the industry, how we start in the industry is your brethren doing your marketing. Let's be honest. And we're winging it on top of that. So we're winging it. And then you'll have some producer that doesn't want to see you hard done by. So he's going to choose to work with you. And can see that there's something in you. So there are people always around you that you can tap into. But I just, we have to get rid of the concept that independent means alone. It doesn't mean alone.
That's a very good point.
Independent artist is doing it totally independently. Even if you're relying on the bank of mum and dad to help fund your project, you're not doing it independently completely. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, there's always people around you. I think you think, okay, you've got to have these components, then you go and look for somebody out there. But there's people close to you that have that eye, that have that ear, that have that understanding. You just groom them and grow with them.
That's good.
That's a really valid point. I'm just typing that comment because I think independent doesn't mean alone is a very, I mean, not many of us actually think about that. When we see the word indie, we think Lone Ranger. And that's not necessarily how it's supposed to be. What do you think about this, Charisse? Because I could see that you were looking to add your thoughts.
Calculated.
Yeah. It's really good though.
I was going to say, I'm just going to let you know my daughter's broken out of her room, so she might interrupt.
That's fine. I'm a mum, I totally understand.
I think Audrey's bang on, and I'm going to say it every time I speak after her, so you might have to ask me the question first.
Fair enough. Okay.
She's bang on. Ultimately, there is someone always around you that can probably help. I wouldn't ever give in to the thought of no one believes in me, so they won't market or manage me on my behalf. I've heard that a lot over the years and with artists that I've mentored. And my thing is just put yourself out there, but at the same time, learn for yourself. Like, it's not learn how to market yourself. You know, if there was like, you're right, independent doesn't mean alone. You're right, but it doesn't. You still need to learn for yourself. You still need to fulfill that gap. So there are courses out there that you can take on marketing. That you don't even have to do. You can just watch a YouTube clip if you want. Do you know what I mean? And that you can learn about marketing. That you can learn about running a business. Because if you really want to earn money and understand this, you know, Flagging help musicians. They do music business, courses, and there's AIM and other organizations that want to see independent musicians succeed, and so look around. So even if you feel right now, it's easy to say, oh, if that you can't see that person in your peripheral, go to help musicians or AIM, or go on the internet and start to equip yourself on how to market yourself. And to be honest, it's so much easier now than it was when I was in the game. You've got social media, which is a complete game changer. You just put up a song. If you put up the right song, it get TikTok will grab it. And next thing you know, you better make sure you had your ducks in a row. You know what I'm saying? So it's so much easier. So you're not alone. You've got how many billions of people on Facebook? You've got millions of people on Instagram, and you can utilize assets on there that can make sure your music is put out there. The main thing Audrey said, and I believe this wholeheartedly, and I'm going to be controversial here, so nobody leave the room because I say this. But there's a lot of music out there that's trash.
Oh yeah, we know that.
Find a producer. And if you ain't a songwriter, there are songwriters out there. Find and connect with these people and make music. Make good music. There's an old age, good music sells. It's the truth. It's the truth. Put out good music out there, and that will make the difference.
That's really good. Adegail, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think oftentimes though, on that point, people do, I guess, and even I've fallen into this at the start, you can become an island thinking that, this is my song, I want to do this by myself. And I think there's a lot of people with that mindset of, I don't need help, I don't want to write it, I want to write to it, I want to sing to it, I don't need this, I can produce it myself. And that's how you kind of can fall into that trap of making relatively good music because you've done everything yourself and you are at a point where you weren't able to, where your skills just weren't there. And so I think outsourcing and getting people who know what they're doing really helped me. So yeah, I definitely agree with everything that's been said. It's just, you're not an island and you can't do this music thing by yourself. If you want to do it in the long term, you really can't do it by yourself. So yeah, great advice.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, two things actually that have come out from these responses in summary, even though we're not saying stay there and we're not saying there is really a bare minimum, but crucially, you need to have a good producer.
Yeah.
You need to do research on who produces your songs. Before I came out with my first song, every time I go and sing somewhere, 9 times out of 10 somebody going, oh, when are you going to do an album? I can produce you. And I'm like, so what kind of music do you produce? I can do any music. The minute they say that, I switch off.
Scary.
Literally. Scary. I'm like, because you need to be able to say, I'm an Afrobeat guy, or I'm an R&B soul guy, or I do worship. You don't just come and say, I can give you any beat. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my cue to leave, So get a good producer, but also know what marketing kind of tools or strategies you're going to adopt, even if it's just the bare minimum. Because when I started out, I struggled because I'm naturally, people don't believe this when I say it, but I'm naturally an introvert. And so I found it really hard to go on social media and say, hey, I'm here, I've got a song. I really struggled. And God had to deal with me and say, look, if you don't sell your product, no one will sell your product. So then I had to learn how to come out of my shell. how to sing my own praises, literally, you know, be like, this is a song, it's great, go listen, share. You know, it was so out of my element for me to go out and be selling stuff. But I had to, because marketing was critical. You can't produce all this music and then hope people will come and knock on your door to get the music. You need to take the music. You literally need to be a salesperson, virtually or physically, to take the product out. And I think one of the things I did back then, as Audrey actually said, I didn't have a marketing person, but I had a street team. I had a number of friends back then when social media was kind of still, this was how many years ago? Social media was still kind of not necessarily new, but everyone was using it in a unique way. If I had a new song, it was everybody's DM photo or profile picture. Everybody was coming out and talking about, at the same time, this thing we had then called Thunderclap. I don't know if you remember Thunderclap. I'll get all my friends who post the same post at the exact time. And that was a marketing team in a way, even though it wasn't a proper marketing. But the point being, even as, you know, independent artists, we just need to keep thinking outside of the box. Okay, I haven't got a budget, but what can I do? And literally, sometimes all you need to do is sit on the loo and think. Literally, sometimes that's how my ideas come. Sit down and just think, and then write down your ideas to say, today I was on the phone to somebody who's got a new song coming out, and I was just giving him idea after idea. He said to me, can we have a Zoom call, because you're just coming up with all these ideas? I'm like, but that's the thing, you just need to sit down and think and write down your ideas. So I think the two key things are, have a good producer, because there's no point marketing a bad product. So you can produce a good product, and then have some basic marketing, you know, ideas and plans that you kind of want to execute and run with. But that said, though, so going back to my point about struggling with, you know, being an introvert and not wanting to sing my own praises, we're coming to a segue to this whole issue that we sometimes have around, you know, spirituality and not necessarily wanting, you know, I struggled with just stepping out and doing things, but sometimes we have, you know, a more of a spiritual mandate to put the song out and not make money. I've had people who've told me that this is ministry, I don't want to make money, and we don't want to sort of pull them down if that's exactly what they've been instructed to do. But then the question, which is exactly why I do Equilibrium, if you watch any of my videos, I literally start by saying the balance between music business and ministry. How can we balance business and ministry? So it's all about souls, it's all about the kingdom, it's all about the gospel. So how do we, you know, kind of balance starting out and going, I want to make my money, and equally going, I want to win souls? So I mean, you've all come across this, you know, in your own different paths. I kind of want to know and explore and maybe unpack how you've managed to balance the financial, you know, monetary side of things with the criticality of also knowing it's a spiritual journey and it's a spiritual mission, whilst equally it's a business venture. You know, it's kind of two things tugging against each other. So I'll start with Charisse this time, because I know you're a wealth of knowledge, a fountain of knowledge, and I know you've done this for so long. I remember back then contacting Preacher Boy many years ago for something I was looking to do with Jahaziel. So I know, that's probably where we made contact, now that I think about it. But anyway, so yeah. But anyway, so what are your thoughts on that?
I think you can be spiritual. The Bible is spiritual. The Bible is full of wisdom. You know, Jesus says, count the cost. You know, Jesus says, use your talent. You know, and he's using it in reference to money, in a sense of, you know, but he's using that as an example. In other words, don't hide your gifts. That's the example. He also uses talent and use it as money, you know. Jesus says money answereth all things. Did Jesus say that? Sorry, someone correct me, the theologian somewhere. No, I believe that's in Ecclesiastes. Money answereth all things. Like,
it still does,
like, count the cost, know your business. You know, know it. You know, that's important. The other side of it, sorry, remind me of your question. Sorry, please. Sorry.
So getting the balance between spirituality, which is valid, because we don't want to knock down the importance of the spiritual side of things and business.
Yeah, and honestly being prayerful, like everything, being prayerful, giving every fine detail, big detail to God, but understanding that you are a steward of your gift.
That's right. That's a good one.
You are a steward. You know, you've been given a mind, you've been given knowledge, it's out there, it's attainable, Use it. Don't just sit there, let's make the tunes and then I'm waiting for God to make it. They don't go, sir. It really doesn't. So that's my 2 pence.
Valid. We're stewards and we need to be accountable. Adegail, want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much my journey in a nutshell of, you know, understanding that I am a steward and that if I'm going to be in this in the long run, I need to be able to make money from it because it's an expensive place to be. And so I think for me, it's just a matter of knowing, you know, keeping your heart in check, you know, because at times you can get lost in the sauce, you can get lost in, you know, that's too much or things like that.
Oh yeah.
And then like it's still, this is worship to me. So me making music, me stewarding it well, that's my worship to God. You know, that's my obedience to Him. And yes, money can come from that, and that will help me to do it more and more. But yeah, it's just finding that balance between not getting lost in it, but also knowing that it's a business, right? You're essentially, when you release music, you become an entrepreneur in a way.
Straight away.
You have to know how to, you know, make money, make profit, or just at least make the money that you spent back, or at least some of it, so that you can continue to do this. Because otherwise, as we've seen with a lot of people, it can just fade away because they was, you know, putting their heart and soul into it, and then nothing kind of came of it, and so they just couldn't afford to do it anymore. And so I don't really want to get to that point. And so I'm definitely, for me personally, yeah, you just have to find a balance and continue to praise God that He keeps your heart pure as you do this.
Audrey?
Yeah, I mean, as a gospel artist, if you are doing gospel and you're translating that message for souls, that is your Great Commission. That is your go ye into all the world. That is actually what you're doing. So being a steward, you know, understanding that that is actually your mission is one thing. Yeah. But then also, if you want to translate your message to a wider audience, you have to think of the business aspect of that. That I think you should be purposing to write hits, for example. And that shouldn't be like, oh, I can't do that, I've got to wait on the Holy Spirit. But He's there anyway. It's a given.
Yeah,
He's there anyway. If he's involved in what you're doing, He's involved in what you're doing always. So you should be purposing to write hits, because then your message can travel further. Don't we do him an injustice? We do him an injustice if we just try and, you know, write lines that rhyme with Psalms. That's lazy. That is lazy. Come on. Whereas if you sit down and you look at, you know, listen to the music that people are listening to, analyze the market that you're in, what people are listening to, what is relevant, look at the producers who are releasing music, or artists that are releasing music that is relevant, work with songwriters again that are relevant, etc. Because you're purposing, and that's how most of these hits occur. They sit down and they purpose to write a hit. They're not leaving that room until they get a hit. I think that's an aspect. And I mean, just simply praying before you go and do it.
Oh yeah.
And you see what I'm saying? It's like you don't have to super spiritualize it, but that's it right there. You know, there's some really great songwriters out there that people can tap into. I know right at the moment, Jake Isaac is doing songwriting sessions that you can go.
There you go.
On his website, I'm Jake Isaac, and book songwriting sessions. 1 hour songwriting sessions. And when I tell you he's sick, like, you can walk in the room and say, what do you want to write about? Okay, okay, there's a song. So it's just like, so, you know, and it helps you to grow. I think during this COVID stage, that's what we should be doing. We should be partnering with people, fostering relationships with people, writing songs with people, and releasing music. I feel a bit disheartened that there has not been more music released during this season, because I would have thought that this is the time that you could say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus 1,500 times on a song and it will sell, because people need a message of hope right now.
They do indeed.
To be less concerned about, you know, censoring your music. We should be writing that message of hope, because it should be coming from us.
Yeah. Do you know what? That leads me on to something, and this is controversial. Please, again,
please.
Don't leave the room,
That's why you're here.
Audrey, bang on. Where was the creativity during the season? Where was the creativity during the season? Where was it? Where
if I speak for artists,
I think the problem is
if I speak for a few artists,
most artists most artists have a perception that it's about gigs. But this time has shown you that there's no more gigs. What are you going to do? How are you going to remain relevant? Write songs and release them.
Come on.
Do you know?
But if I speak for a few artists, though, one of the challenges people like myself would have, I could write 50 songs, but I don't have a studio, I don't have a home studio, and I don't play an instrument. So that's a challenge.
So much can be done
No,
online.
not even,
So much can be done online.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. This is the knowledge gap. You lot are getting fed today.
Correct.
You're getting fed today.
Yeah.
That is the thing. There is no, I'm not going to go there. You know, I'm the queen of plagiarism. I promise you. I do not even get I'm the queen. If someone's done it over there and it looks good to me, I'm gonna do it. Do you understand me? If I'm gravitate and I gravitate to creativity. So if I see something, I'm like, right, I can do that. Let me try that. You know. My point is, where's the creativity? Where is the ideas? I remember when we were out, Preacher Boy was out, and there was this influx of hip hop, rap music, just out. Everybody was a rapper. Some people might know what I'm talking about. And the complaint at that time was, well, it's easier for them because they're rapping, they're not singing. I didn't get it. I was like, wait a minute, there's no difference of you going in the studio, you working with a producer, you writing. It didn't make no sense. For me, it sounded like an excuse. We can't, there's no studio, but the entire world is on TikTok right now, producing hits, making music, making their millions, doing £12 million contracts from their laptop.
Right.
There's no excuse. No studio, no nothing. I can't do nothing. That's when I say you must be waiting for God to come down and touch.
No. I have to say, I released music during lockdown, but I'm speaking on behalf of those who that could be their story. And I appreciate the response. So
so I've responded.
Because I know there's people in their houses now watching and going, well, I can't do anything because I'm here. I don't have any equipment. I don't have anything. And I'm just speaking on behalf of those people to say, you know, well, how can we help them? So your response is very
if you want to remain like, this is why I said there should be some creative juices. If you're Holy Spirit led, blah blah blah, you know, I'm not saying record an album, fresh new songs, but if you see, I don't know, Bethel Music, I don't know, and they do something, do a cover. Do you understand what I'm saying? Remain, just keep relevant, the juices flowing. If there's I don't know, Justin Bieber drops a song, do a different version of it, gospelize it. If a producer puts a beat, and there's pure free beats out there, pure. Just on YouTube, people use my beat, please use my beat. Go on there and get the beat and do something on it. Mic up your laptop,
be ready.
Get the software and just get your word out. You don't need original music to start your marketing.
That's true.
All of the people now that's got a deal. I see that, TJ. I see that. I'm gonna touch on that in a minute. All the people that's got a deal now, where did they get the deal from? They did, not all of them, but the majority of them got them doing the covers on the YouTube, just getting their voice heard.
SoundCloud for pound.
SoundCloud
and then end up getting Grammys. What is that?
That's what I'm trying to say. You got people songwriting for people that we don't even know about, getting Grammys. People who live Brixton getting Grammys because they're songwriting for people because they just put their music out there. And I don't know, Alicia Keys heard it and said, I want that song. This person, I want that song. The platform, you guys have got it easy. And I'm saying you guys because you know, what I do is different now, but you guys have got it easier. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me come out.
So basically, the other thing I was going to, okay, actually, Adegail, you haven't spoken on this, have you? No. So let's get you.
I guess I agree to an extent. I think it depends on the genre you're on, because I think not everyone uses beats, and I definitely don't.
Exactly.
My original music, and it's a lot. Let me not lie, it's very expensive. But I think I agree with what you're saying in terms of pivoting. I think that's what I've noticed around my generation. A lot of them don't know how to pivot creatively. They can, I guess they're good at the music stuff, when they have the availability, but in terms of any other aspects of life or any other way of making money musically, they don't know how. I guess in lockdown, I was able to pivot when it comes to like, you know, teaching music, having workshops and stuff like that, because I guess I have that brain to think like that. But a lot of people, honestly, they don't think like that. And
they're gig focused, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're gig focused, and now they can't perform gigs, and what else is there for me to do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're correct in that they need to think wider.
Yeah, definitely.
I started doing free mentoring sessions on Monday. If you go to Industry Developer, you'll see Monday Mentor. And for that same reason, because I realized people were stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
So I started jump on Zoom, 30 minutes. What else are you good at? An instrument. Oh, then you can do Zoom sessions. Let's go on your website. Let's add this to your website, because you have to learn to pivot, or otherwise you're shutting your whole shop down.
Absolutely. And can I just jump on that?
You know, let me just say a line. You know, there's a saying in business in general: adapt or die.
Correct.
Right, you have to adapt. Adegail adapted. Do you understand what I'm saying? She said, "Okay, I can't really do that again. Okay, let me look into workshops. Let me look in online lessons. Adapt or die, because no one saw this pandemic come in, and no one will see anything else coming from it. So you have to prepare to pivot, as Adegail said."
Yeah, definitely. And I'm gonna basically, based on what you've just said, I was gonna jump on what Audrey's just said around the industry developer, because one of the things that we're trying to get out of today's session is closing as much as we can. Obviously, we're not going to do it in one conversation, but at least helping artists to close that knowledge gap. And I think, obviously, last year, going into this year, a lot of artists have realized that they need multiple sources of income, not just record a song, go into studio, release music and gig. And so this point on pivoting and mentoring sessions that Audrey has mentioned, if you're watching and you're an artist, go on to @industrydeveloper on Instagram. I believe, is it on Twitter or anywhere else, or is it just Instagram?
Yeah, it's on Twitter and Facebook.
Exactly. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Go search @industry developer, because one of the things I'm hoping we can take away from today's session is some information that we can, practical information that we can put to practice, put to good use. Industry developer, contact her, get a mentoring session. She can analyze your skill sets, your giftings, your abilities, and then give you some steer in direction of where you can go and what you can do to pivot, to take advantage of, optimize the situation, because it's not necessarily going away anytime soon. Even I literally today, honestly, even today, I had a phone call with my MD today talking about strategy for the year in terms of virtual gigs and being prepared. So what are we doing in that kind of space? Thinking about, okay, we're not necessarily going to be going out just yet. I'm having those conversations. We're thinking about how to be more proactive just in case we don't get to go out physically. So, if you're not really clear on what you want to do strategically or what other alternatives you have to utilize your gifting, speak to Audrey. She's not paying me for this, by the way, but I thought it was really good when she mentioned that. I could just see artists benefiting from those conversations, because some of us struggle, and that's why I'm playing devil's advocate on this platform. I'm asking what may sound like obvious questions, but these are the questions I get asked, and some people struggle with. Some people don't even know where to go for mentoring, where to go for help, who to talk to ask some of the most basic questions. And I think that would be at least one takeaway from today's session. But that actually kind of is a good segue to one of the key things I wanted to kind of highlight, which is plugging this knowledge gap. We already kind of said what are the bare minimum bits of information or skill sets that artists need, and we've kind of alluded to marketing, we've alluded to being smart in terms of just business and entrepreneurial skills, having good music, writing, but just holistically, and I'll probably go with you, Audrey, because of the GMIA and knowing some of the courses that are available. I've actually registered for a couple myself, and the industry is evolving every day. I mean, only today I was on the PRS, it was yesterday, the 19th of June. I was on the PRS AGM because I'm a voting member of the PRS. And there were so many interesting questions that were asked at the AGM. One of the questions was, how is PRS going to respond to licensing online gigs that we artists do on, say, a Facebook or an Instagram? And only a couple of weeks ago, there's been a development whereby when you sell an event, a ticketed event on Facebook or whatever, you can actually get your licensing, because as a PRS member, you go on and report your performances on PRS. If you do a ticketed performance on Facebook or whatever, with the new legislation, the new developments in place, You can actually get paid. The point I'm making is that was at yesterday's AGM. That's new information.
Right.
There's always new information literally per second in the music industry. So which is why I think attending things like workshops, attending things like, you know, even this panel, this conversation itself is informative. But I know that there are more formal, structured, you know, platforms and outlets where people can get, you know, proper information. And I just want to let you, Audrey, talk a bit more about the GMIA and some of the things that you're doing to help plug the gap.
So one of the first things that I started to work with when I jumped into GMIA was to be able to connect with the different music organizations and funding bodies, because I know for myself, it's only this year that I started to apply for funding of projects that I do, and that's terrible. Do you know what I mean? So I started to have conversations with them, and they wanted, the interesting thing is they wanted to have those conversations because they want to know, why aren't more gospel people applying?
Oh, my goodness.
They were asking, why aren't we applying? Is it something on the form? Is it something innate to us? What is the tipping points that is making this process difficult? So we've been able to have really good discussions with a few of those bodies and be able to sort of collaborate to do workshops to be able to facilitate directly to the gospel community. So we specially requested those to be done to the gospel community. And one of those organizations, PRS Foundation, we have a workshop coming up this Monday with them. So we've asked them, you know, they're like, what do you want us to do in the workshop? Show us the form. Let us know how we complete the form. Let us know which projects are more likely to, well, not more likely, but what type of projects should we be submitting? Because there's no point submitting a project that it doesn't fit organization's criteria.
Yeah.
So, and in that way, you can literally go away and build a project and then complete the form. Do you know what I mean? So you can work it to your advantage in that sense. So we've got a workshop coming up this Monday, which definitely go and register, go to gmia.org.uk, click on market events, and you'll see all the events that we've got so far. So we've got PRS, we've got CCLI, PPL, PRS Foundation, of course, Help Musicians. They do funding as well. And they're doing quite some new stuff to help that funding process be a lot easier. Just Secured Arts Council. So you're going to get bags of knowledge. Definitely, I'll be making notes. Definitely, I will be making notes. So, yeah, definitely to jump on those things. I think we don't apply often enough, and maybe Charisse can say something about that as well. In that, again, it goes back to not having that entrepreneurial vision in the first place. That as Black people, I think we just soldier on.
That's true, though. There's that as well. Yeah.
True. When I completed the survey and it started to define the different types of racism as in direct, indirect, and microaggressions. When I saw the definitions, it really hit me hard that, oh yeah, that's what that scenario was about. And that was, but because we get on with it people, because we've almost become accustomed to it, we don't even realize that we've been attacked in that way. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think it'd be interesting to actually have a survey for the survey to see what the repercussions of that, because if you're forever making excuses for other people's behavior, it then becomes quite critical as what's the long-term impact of that. As women, we're all women here.
Coincidentally.
I'm sure we've experienced sexism in the industry. That's mainstream.
Oh, yeah.
Industry.
Do you know what? Just today, I made an observation, and I'm that kind of person. When I see things, I kind of act. I made an observation. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I messaged somebody straight away to say, women, ? I saw something, and it was no female representation whatsoever in a very reputable music platform. And I messaged somebody has got like an insider, you know, position. I'm like, women ? Like, you know, so it's present, which is quite sad. And we work really hard, which is a bit frustrating. We work extra hard.
Correct. And we're a bit of an anomaly like that, because you're Black, you're a woman, you face sexism and very ageism even. So sometimes it's because you're too old, you'll get it. Because you're too young to get it. Too cute, you'll get it. You know, it's like there's a whole other pocket that needs to be examined there, and the repercussion of those things. But yeah, I want to encourage everybody to go to the GMIA website and click on Marketplace. There's a whole host of workshops that we've got running. Definitely go and sign up. Listen, I'll be chasing you. If I see certain people didn't join that workshop and they come and ask me anything afterwards.
Like, you can send them to the replay. Hopefully they'll be recorded. I don't know.
73 million, where was you? That would be my question. At least try. At least try. Sometimes it's like getting a Grammy because you don't win it the first time. But try again.
Listen, there is money out there.
Correct.
I sit on the board of HMUK. I'm on the board. Excuse the baby. I sit on the board of HMUK, and we are working with the Arts Council. I was on a forum yesterday with Caroline Dinage, and she was talking about how much money they've given to diverse audiences.
Right.
And it's into the millions, and they're looking to invest a billion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they've got a box to tick, so we need to be there.
They're ticking boxes. You know what? They're ticking boxes. But you know what? They're ticking boxes. You need to be ticking that box.
Ticking boxes as well. Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say. Listen, the thing is, one thing I've learned by doing Black Lives in Music, one aspect is, sorry to bring race into it, but white musicians, seriously, this is what's going on. Sorry about this. White musicians understand funding.
Yeah.
They understand they needed to get through music education. They needed to launch their careers. Yeah. They understand it, and they learn like everybody else how to apply.
Yeah.
Just like Audrey says, Black people, we're just going through it because that's what we've been taught to do from the beginning of time. We're just going through it. And that just also how a lot of organizations are started, like say Help Musicians. This is a bit of a tangent. It goes, they're just started by people coming together for a cause. One thing that irritates me, and I don't want to see it no more, please don't leave the room, I don't want to see it no more, is this thing, gospel music is a scene. There's no infrastructure. There's no, how many Christians, gospel music artists are there out there? How many churches? We are the biggest community of people that I can even think of right now. I can't even think of the Black Christian community. That's how we're here and we're able to thrive, because our ancestors, our parents and our grandparents paved the way for us as a community. They lived their life and did partners so they can feed their kids and pay their mortgage. Why hasn't the church, and I know this is a question that comes around, but why haven't we come together, applied for the funding, created an entity where you can put that music out? Oh, I think there is already one. It's called the GMIA. I beg, everybody come together. Yeah,
I love how you said I beg. I like that.
Come together.
One representing body.
One representing body. No, the big GMIA do something else. But you can have record labels. You can come together and put your money in a pot. Apply for funding. Record labels apply for funding. They're just creative with it. They go to the Arts Council and say, I want to do in a festival an event.
Right.
They get the project grant, TikTok another 20 grand on it, and they can do stuff that we don't do because we don't have the knowledge. Yeah. And this is knowledge gaps. So I cannot reiterate it enough. Audrey and the GMIA team have put together something that is crucial. The next one, I believe, the first one's about funding, right?
Yeah.
You not need to be there and telling everybody to come along and listen, because everybody out there and everybody that's successful didn't just do it. They got a leg up. They got funding. And now they're able, don't get me wrong, it's still a struggle, but at least they're able to thrive. Yeah. And don't let money worry about that specific project. And if you don't have the knowledge, the same organizations will teach you what to do with the money. At the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
I know that because I have inside information. I'm on the board of HMUK, so I know what they do. So I can't reiterate it enough. Go to all of the workshop. If you're really about if you're really about it, if you're really about wanting sustainability and in your career, go to these workshops.
Yep. If you're having to make those decisions between buying a new washing machine or getting your album mixed or mastered, please come to the workshops.
Oh gosh.
You shouldn't be making those decisions.
You shouldn't have to, yeah.
Exactly. You understand? If you need money to tour, if you need money to do your actual project itself, your music project, or just to market. There's money, you can apply for money just to market your project. So you've got your album and everything, but you need to be able to get it off the ground in a bigger way. Because you've noticed the last time when you released, that was the missing component. Put that in an application that you notice that is the missing component. And based on receiving X amount of money, I would be able to do the following. It doesn't have to be.
Let me jump in on that real quick. Let me land. Do you know when you've got a business and you go to the bank and you want a loan and they say fill out a business plan?
Right.
Has any musician on here completed a business plan? But listen, you look at business plan and you're like, oh my God, a form. Why do I have to do this? But that will dissect your purpose, what you're trying to do, how to get money. And one of the most components, or the biggest component on the business plan is what? Your marketing. If I've got a bakery, I've got to be thinking about my marketing.
Correct.
Do you understand me? Let alone being an artist. Get that knowledge. Go to the same gone.
Yeah, I was going to say, is also if you're in music business, full stop. So if you're a manager, again, look at your roster, look at what's missing. What components do you need to propel the artists that you're working with to the next area? Or do you need money to develop you as a manager? Because there's courses that you need to go on in the States somewhere, or there's courses that you can need to do online, and they're all $2,000 for one course. Again, there's scope for a project right there that you can claim for funding for. So it doesn't have to be about the artists. It could be about the people that facilitate the artists, producers, graphic artists. It could be anything that's related to creatives.
Absolutely. And if you are a business owner or a record label owner, or you're just yourself, you can get a leadership course with the Arts Council.
Can I ask something? Because this is something that just popped up in my mind. Given that it's very critical that we have a marketing, section within the business plan and the request for funding, can people also get marketing training? Because I feel like if we don't have a good marketing plan, we don't know how to put a business plan together, that could be a gap in itself, which could either discourage people from going because they're like, well, I don't have this, or just make it fail. They might even fail in the application. So I think we also need to address that marketing or budgeting and planning and business case, production. So can, either in the course of applying for funds, can people just apply for a marketing training course, for example, or are there other avenues where people can learn music marketing that you're aware of that you can share with us, and then people equip themselves first, or at least learn how to do. I know you were talking about the one on the GMIA, which is great. I'm not sure if that's going to be covered there, but I think before we go off and apply for something, it would be good to really understand how to equip all the components of said application.
So that's what Arts Council do. That's what they call developing your creative practice. So it's about developing you as a person. So if it is, that you want your vocal coaching and you want to go on a vocal coaching course, or if you're starting a podcast but you want to know how do you record, how do you edit, you can break it down into those components. And so it would be the same with marketing. If there are courses that you want to be available that will help to develop you as a practitioner in the industry, then that's something that Arts Council do in their course. And in fact, Power Up, which is a very similar application to Arts Council, but it's directed at the BAME community, completely directed at the BAME community. That's what they do as well. So they're part of PRS Foundation, and we'll be touching on that as well. So with Power Up, it's next year. I think it opens up next year. So what we're going to do is actually have programs beforehand where you get your application, fill in your application, then we'll have sessions where you can Q&A your application. So, I mean, we can't say any fairer than that, but you're absolutely correct. Upskilling yourself to be so that you can make sure that you're doing everything correctly. That could be all part of an application.
Yeah. Charisse, you're going to say something if you haven't forgotten what you were going to say.
You know what? No, it's just Audrey hit the nail on the head. And, what we do at Black Lives in Music, slightly we are working with the industry. So this is another thing. You guys need to feed into us so we can feed to them.
Yeah.
So there's a cycle going on here.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So at Black Lives in Music, I have round tables. I know you're aware. Have round tables with these CEOs of these such organisations regularly. We need to understand what the gospel community needs, what the Black community needs, and we can feed into them. Do you understand what I'm saying? At the same time, so that's all I wanted to add, because Audrey kind of said it all. That was only to say the only thing I do disagree with. I got my one disagreement.
Go ahead.
Remember, you asked the question, the minimum. You can't limit yourself with just the marketing. You need to know it all.
Yeah.
And if you need to teach yourself over and over again. Remember, I said this music ecosystem is growing in a way that it's different now. So one thing with the gospel, we can tend to be a little bit behind, if we be brutally real, with especially with the business sides. And the funders that we're talking to are the same as well. Don't get it twisted. Where the music business and the recording industry is, how to monetize your money. I can go in, they're buying up gaming companies. It's going into tech. As a musician, sorry to take away from the creativity and the beauty of music, but have you explored tech? Like, I know that's a big ask or anything like that, but I'm just saying that's where it's going. So you need to constantly renew, constantly level up your knowledge base. So it's not, let's just learn how to do the marketing for the business, business plan. No.
You've got to learn about publishing.
You've got to learn about publishing.
So that your music can get into games, it can get into movies. Can you imagine your song on some video game? You're making money while you sleep.
Absolutely, and this is a really exciting thing about writing, which I was actually chatting to someone about recently. Is even though we're Christians and we write worship and we write, Christian music, I was on a course the other day talking about MCPS and PRS and the publishing, and the guy cited an example of I don't know if you guys remember is it Catchphrase or The Weakest Link, one of those TV shows where it's a game show and there's this music playing, ding, 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 that plays. The guy who wrote just that thing, right? He's made for life because it plays every day somewhere in the world. And that can be written by anyone. You don't always have to. We don't always have to write Christian worship. It could even be a beat, but as you say, knowing about licensing and publishing, you could write a beat for a game show. Correct. You can write a beat for a computer game, because we've been given this gift to share with the world. So sometimes people ask me, does a Christian only ever have to write church music? I'm like, well, as long as you're not writing anything that's perversive or full of swear words, you can literally write an instrumental, put it out as a ringtone. If it's catchy, it could blow, so, and then whilst you're that could equally be bringing money in to fund the ministry, to fund that, the music that won't necessarily, give or take, rightly or wrongly, sell millions. It's ministering, and therefore there's a small demographic, but you could write something interesting with the right publishing deal, that little 5 notes repeated many times, played on a TV somewhere globally, so that's kind of keying into the points that you've both made around publishing and just developing ourselves.
Streams, and and the majority of gospel musicians self-release.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everyone, I might as well say 99.9 almost. And what does that look like for you? What is self-releasing? If a deal does, how can you ensure that you can try and get a publishing deal but still remain independent? That's what a lot of artists are doing. They're brokering deals that are into the millions. Dave and AJ Tracy, and if I can't say their business because we're online, but it's in millions. It's not 1, 2, 3 millions. Because they're understanding their worth. And because unlike us, when we back in the day, and most Black musicians, they've knowledged up. They got the knowledge, and they said, actually, you know what? Let me create a pathway of my music that looks like this. I want to remain independent, but I do want to make sure that I get the best exposure as possible. So, I mean, obviously, you know, they've been able to do that at a certain stage in their career. But you know, it's good to know it. Black people, gospel musicians, it's good to know it.
Yeah.
So I think it sounds to me like the area of publishing is one area where we also have a deficit of knowledge, and we benefit from learning more. And I'm sure if you go on the GMIA website, I think I saw something on publishing, if I'm not mistaken, on there as well. If I'm not mistaken, one of the workshops that are planned for the
Anything
future.
that you don't see now, it will be popping up in
it will be, yeah. So I
we
think
also want to do like welfare workshops as well. So about your health, about mental health of creatives. I want to get someone on to speak about that and how we, you know, that what you're talking about, the church kind of mentality and the concepts, the doctrine that we may have embedded in us that prevent us from promoting ourselves, for example, or being able to make that division between music and ministry, or how that work, what it looks like when it works together. So got some interesting people coming in to sort of explore those things with us as well.
Yeah, that's really, really great. And I think I was going to ask Adegail a question, given that you're much closer to the ground in terms of the age group, the demographics that you work with, and you've had a number of workshops. I've been on one of them. What would you say is the typical, you know, the biggest concern maybe of the younger artists? Because it's interesting that we have all these resources, but I'm very keen to understand what they think is the big area where they need the most knowledge, or where they feel like the most confused, or they lack, you know, the insight that they need.
Yeah, I think so. I actually did a survey to ask this specific question to attendees, and a lot of them do talk about the business side, as in just knowing how to get your music out there, because I think everyone's good at, you know, making the music, but in terms of having these avenues, a lot of people just don't know. And even me, if I'm honest, with when it comes to GMIA, I only signed up recently, and so it's like I study a lot, right? I ask so many questions, but it's like the visibility of some of these things are just not necessarily there. And so a lot of these young people, they desire to learn, they desire to seek this knowledge and to grow, but they just have no idea where to start. They have no idea who to go to. And a lot of times there's fear, because they don't really want to reach out to people. They don't really want to, you know, have the prospect of getting rejected when they try to reach out to an artist or someone that they know has the knowledge. And so I think a lot of these people, like, there is a desire there, and I've seen that with my events. There's a desire, but it's just, I guess, these avenues also need to be more visible to the young people, or at least, I guess, if you can even get ambassadors who are younger to speak into those circles, kind of like Charisse was saying about, you know, I guess these organizations are there, but I guess if they don't have the funding to, then it just makes it harder. So I think, yeah, people want to know how to get their music out there, but they often just look to the people, I guess the very few people who, you know, went viral, and then they try to copy what they do from the front side without knowing anything that happens at the back, which I guess doesn't help, because you don't know how many hours they've been working. You don't know who they know. You don't know what sort of deal they have. And they just kind of assume based on what they see on the front that, okay, you just put it out, you know, you just get some buzz, and then you just leave it.
PR story. That's a PR story every year.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it can be really frustrating for them. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of kind of doing what's happening right now is good in terms of all these organizations, but I guess the visibility of these organizations really, in the almost, you need to force feed people at this point, because people, they want it, they just don't know how.
Well, I think what you said is important, that they don't necessarily trust the organization because they're not aware of it. But then people like yourself, if you promote it, then that's how they're going to come to trust it effectively, or you know. So yeah, we've got to do a lot of inter-promotion.
Basically trying to reach the grassroots, which is what I'm hoping part of this whole Equilibrium Live will do as well, is reach the people who kind of need to hear and see these conversations.
And even to chip in, even with a step forward, they have an inventory of just a bunch of things, and so many people don't know about that. And so even if that was just made visible, that would help so many people, and it's helped me too on my own journey. So I think, the stuff is out there. It's just a matter of knowing it.
I think before we even go on, because I was going to talk to Charisse a bit more about the Black Lives in Music, but something just popped in my head, and I just had a scenario there where we take ownership of our personal development as musicians, artists, creatives, professionals. And what that would mean is we need to be intentional and deliberate about development, such that we actually have a plan. If you don't plan, you're definitely going to fail. And I know it sounds cliche, But if we don't plan to develop ourselves as artists, we will fail in that space as well. So something that just came in my head now, literally, and I'm just going to say as I saw it, is set a time every month for yourself where you would either search for these things. And one of the reasons we don't know these things are there is probably because we're not setting time aside to search, because it's on YouTube, Google, everywhere. If we just Google funding, publishing, whatever, if we take some time and say Friday between 2 and 3 every month because I'm so busy, or every week or every fortnight, whatever the frequency, and just mark it to say my personal development as an artist, as a creative, is important to me. If I'm going to see longevity in this space, I will intentionally set aside 1 hour to look for stuff, or to read the stuff I've found, or to apply for the stuff I've seen, or to go on a voice, a session with Jake Isaac, a songwriting thing, or to have a mentoring. But literally every month, every fortnight, every week, whatever you fancy, just be deliberate, write it down and stick to the plan. Even the scripture says, write the vision and make it plain, so that he who runs with it, or he who has it, may run with it. So who sees it may run with it, or reads it may run with it. I'm misquoting the scripture, but you get my point. Write the vision down, have a plan. You may not do it every week or every month or every fortnight, but at least it's there. And you would keep revisiting your plan. If you had a career as a doctor, an accountant, or whatever, even after qualifying, you would have what we call CPD, continuous professional development, where every year, I'm an accountant by trade, and every year I'm expected to do a certain number of hours of professional training, even after being certified 12 years ago. Correct. A pilot would need to continue training. A doctor, they're continuously training. And why do we feel that we're different? So it just popped in my head. I literally just saw writing it down, having the plan, and sticking to the plan. I think for us, because we would never know all the information that's out there if we're not consciously and intentionally seeking. And you shall find. Seeking the information. So I just want to quickly talk about the I nearly said BLM, the Black Lives in Music survey that was completed. I was confessing to Charisse that I saw it so many times pop up, and then when Yinka from UK Gospel posted it, I was like, yes, now I have to do it. I completed the survey. I have to say I'm very proud of myself, but I know the reasoning behind why that survey was created. And in all honesty, the PRS also did a survey recently on diversity, and it was driven by similar sentiments that you've done, Charisse. So I thought you wanted to talk a bit more about the reasoning behind it, what you're trying to achieve from it, and just anything else you'd like to share in terms of the plans that you have with the Black Lives in Music.
Sure. I mean, thank you to everyone that's completed the survey. We're still crunching numbers as we speak. I'll get the first draft report tomorrow, so I can't really share any findings at the moment. Sorry. But just know that, we're definitely appreciative. And one of the things with the survey, and if you don't know about the survey, it's to understand the lived experience of Black musicians in the UK. And as you know, gospel musicians take up a lot of the backing vocalists, bands, artists themselves, Christian musicians, this affects them. And what we wanted to understand is the lived experience. And where it came from is that I had to write a business case for organisation, and I just couldn't find any data on Black musicians. There was nothing at all. And I was like, okay, let's deal with problem number one. Let's get the data in. And one of the aspects that we needed to look at was how Black musicians are affected in the industry. And just like you said, some of the sentiments that we are made to feel, the barriers, the progression, discrimination, mental health, which is what we heard a lot last year with George Floyd and some of the celebrities, even down to the other day with Leanne Pinnock. So we decided to do the survey, and we will be having roundtables with the CEOs of every organisation's arts council, all of the ones on the GMIA's Arsenal and more. And we PRSF, PRS, Help Musicians, AIM, UK Music, BPI, the recording industry, and presenting these findings, because we really want to see change within the industry. We want to see why there has been barriers for funding You know, why do we not know? You know, areas of discriminations. Why is there a glass ceiling, or how we put it in Black Lives in Music, a glass door? Sometimes you can't even get into the building, let alone talk about glass ceiling. Can't even get into the building. You know, Black Lives in Music, we primarily work in the jazz and classical space, because for us, that's where we see the most disparity. You know, you can go to a jazz concert, understanding that jazz music's rooted in Black, is a Black art form, but you can't see any Black jazz musicians. Why are they not completing education? What's happening here? So that is why the survey has been created, to start to have that conversation about education. Why is the curriculum, and this might feel like, oh well, what's that got to do with me? But you know, why is the curriculum all white when there's Black musicians, other musicians of color, but we're only learning about European people, and that does something that alienates Black musicians, that alienates us, and that stops us from grassroots level access to instruments. You know, numerous meetings I'm having with the BBC and all of these different heads of, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, their kid is having a violin lesson. We never had that, you know, growing up as Black people. So that's just bringing it anecdotal. But the stories will explain themselves. When we put out, like I said, we're going to be advocating for Black musicians in the industry, for equity, for them to have more. We're thankful for the PRSF and various other organisations that have started the ball rolling, but it's essential that we get more. And this is why we kind of need to hear from you guys, the GMIA, so we can advocate for gospel musicians as well, to ensure that barriers are lifted, ensure there's more, they get more access, to ensure, and one thing I think Roger was saying, that they're even recognised, gospel music's recognised, you know, it's one that's always put on the side, you know. It's an actual, you know.
Something you said actually that I think is very relevant is the next generation. So you talked about, you know, younger children of, you know, Black descent learning instruments that they probably wouldn't get the access to learn in school. And these things typically are not really taught the way that they should be in public schools, because even if you have a violin or whatever instrument, there isn't that strict there isn't that structured curriculum. It's like, yeah, you learn it whenever you want, and it's just that the discipline of, because my daughter plays violin, she's a grade 5 violinist, and I've got 2 daughters, 12 and 8. I sometimes forget how old they are because they're so old now. She's a grade 5 violinist, and she's done classical vocal training as well. And the reason I'm being very deliberate about this is because I know in the future, when it comes to gigs or, you know, concerts, in certain places you have to read to be able to have these opportunities. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys know Fela from Nigeria, the Afrobeat king. His grandson went to Trinity, and I watched an interview of Femi, who's Fela's son, and the grandson, and Femi was saying, my son had to go to Trinity. He had to he wasn't saying like he was angry. He was saying, I made sure that he went to Trinity. I made sure that he learned the classical way of, because when I was in London and I came for concerts, everyone was reading and I had no clue. And these guys are talented. Femi and Fela, they can play in their sleep. But it was like, they gave everyone the sheets and I was there wondering what's what, you know. And so he said, and that was when I said, my son must learn, you know, formal training. Now, they have the luxury. Some people can afford the extra tuition. So what I was going to say was, that's something to probably take away in terms of, for the next generation, how can we support children who are willing, who are gifted? But the school, I know for a fact, the school music department is not going to rigorously take you through grade 1 to 8. That's something you need to do on the side. So that's something to, you know, I'm not saying you're going to have the answer now, but when you have those conversations,
no, that's something that Black Lives in Music do. So
exactly,
we don't just, we don't do surveys, just do surveys. That's part of our model, you know.
Okay.
What we do is we were working with the Arts Council, with their education hubs, to ensure that young musicians that are from a disadvantaged background, Black musicians, have access to good quality music education, knowing So that's what we do. So we're working with the education hubs. We're mentoring students, because there's one aspect of being like your daughter, God forbid, hope the pathway is clear. But you know, it's important that she will get what she needs and the support she needs when she enters higher education, possibly, if you choose. That's why we're there. So we offer mentoring, we offer access and networking. We're working with orchestras to ensure that Black players get the opportunity to play. So they're buddying up with players now. So we're working with about 5 orchestras in the country. We're a new organisation that will increase. But we're working with 5 orchestras in the country to ensure that they begin to get quotas for Black musicians, and on top of that, creating a safe environment for them to thrive. And whilst they're looking and recruiting and trialing, we're bringing through Black students and Black players, so they can have a buddying aspect with them, so they can learn what it means to play. And so both the student, or both the player and the orchestra, get to understand, get to know that this is what the future landscape looks like. So that's what we do at Black Lives in Music. We don't do just do surveys, just one aspect. But we actually go in and do the groundwork within the organisation. So whether it's working with the funders, to making sure Black people get access to funding, whether it's working with orchestras or conservatoires, like you mentioned, Trinity. We work with Trinity. These conservatoires, Royal Welsh, and we're in those conservatoires to ensure that Black people are represented well, and that there's pipelines for education for Black students, so they can actually get in, because this costs money. You know,
it does.
Where I come from, there was no piggy bank for me to go to a conservatoire. You know, so we got to make sure that funding is available, bursaries are available, scholarships are available, so Black musicians can have an equal chance, like everybody else, to play in music. And that's what we stand for, Black Lives in Music, across the board. So whether it's the recording industry, working with making sure our surveys represent well, and leaving it with organisations like Black Music Coalition and Power Up. Our survey feeds into what they need to do in it, but where we work in a jazz and classical, that's what we're doing on the ground. So, and it's you know, we know it's a lot of hard work, but we know it's for the future. And like you said, people are willing as well, which is amazing. Audrey said it earlier on. They're willing. So sorry about the background noise, everyone.
No, it's cool. Totally. We see it on BBC, right, when people are having interviews and then the baby comes in with so I think we're pretty much used to this by now. It's not a problem. So I'm going to be wrapping up very quickly, but I just wanted to check to kind of touch base again with all 3 of you in terms of 2 or 3 key tips, maybe 2 or 3 key tips that you would give an artist to help them on their journey. Just quick nuggets. I might just type them out as well, so people can actually see them and take them away. I'll start with you, Charisse, just so that hopefully I can, because I know you did say start.
I can go. Start with me.
Yeah.
I wasn't next. 2 or 3 tips. I think you guys have heard a lot today. You know.
Yeah.
You've heard a lot today.
Yeah.
So all I can do is summarize. Number 1, you can be funded.
Yeah.
You know, you can get money. Get the knowledge though, to understand what it means to run your business. Get the mindset. I don't know, I'm gonna just go on one. I don't know to do 1, 2, 3, but you know, understand that your ministry is a ministry, but it needs money. So just get that entrepreneurial spirit, like Audrey said. Begin to think, you know what, how can I monetize what I'm doing? You need sustainability. There's no giving away for free, and you're just expecting a return. It doesn't work like that. Like, you know, it might work for some, but I have rarely seen it in the recording industry.
Absolutely, I agree.
Number 2, as well as getting a mindset of how to monetize, understand and get that knowledge bank up. And thankfully, the GMIA is helping you to do that. So definitely sign on to the courses and do every single one. And if you can't do that, the knowledge is available online. And number 3, I feel to say this, if you do feel alone and you don't have what you need, you know, I guess go to GMIA again and try and see where mentorship's an option, and look at various different ways that you can connect with people online to get your music out. But the point is, the knowledge is out there, and most importantly, the money's out there. You can succeed, you can thrive, you can make a career, despite what Matt Hancock and them people are saying. Like, you can make a career, you just need the knowledge to do it. Yeah.
Right. That is really, really cool. So sign up to as many, you know, relevant courses as possible, and seek mentoring, because it's critical for thriving as an artist. Okay. I'll come on to you, Audrey.
Okay. Yeah. I've made some notes because
Good.
Right. So one thing I wanted to say is the expectation around music, that I spend £2,000 on an album, so I expect £2,000 back. Doesn't work like that. Right. And that's a lot. That is a butter frustration for a lot of people. So think about, sometimes you have to quantify money with different things. So you put £2,000 in, nobody knows you. Acknowledge that is actually a promotional product.
Right.
What else can I get from it? I can get a mailing list from it. And from that mailing list, I can target people more directly and then get revenue. Yeah. So I want to sort of alleviate some of the frustration that artists have, that I've spent so much money, so there's an expectation that you would receive exactly. Don't think like that. That's the one reason why you're going to end up walking away, because I didn't get out what I put in. And so use your product wisely when you do release your product, and place the right expectations on your product as well. Now, you might go out there and have a huge hit first time round. That might be the case. But if you have that expectation that this isn't working, why aren't people buying my music? You become a whole different person. And that sucks your creativity up, right? The other thing I would say is to keep learning, apply, and share what you learn. So if you as we were saying, fill in that knowledge gap, go and apply for funding over and over again if you have to, until you get that mark. Do you understand? Once you get the right formula, you're good to go. Yeah. And share that with other people. Let them know that, oh, this is going on. You should apply to this. Here's a video that I saw and it was useful for this. Here's an ebook that I found that was easy for this. I can't tell you how much times I'm trawling Facebook and I'm seeing, 10 ways to release your music. I download all of them. Trust me.
Yeah. And it's always
every single one
as well.
Listen, the Bible says study and show yourself approved.
Why should you do that? So you don't end up being ashamed.
Absolutely.
In anything
Absolutely.
you do. If you want to be the best mum, you go and read books about mums. Parenting. Yeah. So do the same thing. I guess the third thing would be just to say again that independent doesn't mean alone. So look around you, see who can work with you, because that's the model. Trust me, from way back in the day, that was the model. So we might not be selling CDs out of the back of a car anymore because we can do it all on Spotify, but that model still remains. Your mates, your friends, some friend that you know that's really good at admin, that person could be your booking agent. Because let's face it, in the early days, no real booking agent's going to be interested in booking you.
Yeah,
but
this is it. That's exactly what.
You see what I'm saying? But you need a booking system.
And the other thing is, sorry to jump in.
That's right.
Sorry, guys.
That's right.
One of the things is sometimes the infrastructure isn't quite there.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking for a booking agent to get bookings to go to different churches, sometimes you can't get onto that 1 or 2, 3 booking agencies that you might not get. So it is good just to have someone that can help you. It is also good to utilize social media, get yourself out there, So my point is, sometimes we're looking for an infrastructure and that might not be there. But you still need to push
develop your own. Yes, develop your own.
Right.
Yeah.
And And I have seen artists who have kind of done something similar. They kind of create a movement or a brand around themselves.
Right.
So it's not just about, hey, I'm here, I've got my single, and then they disappear for 6 months and come again. Here, I'm here. It's like, and I think even what Adegail is doing, for example, iRadiate. So we know her not just as an independent artist, but as an enabler, someone who does other things. It could be a songwriting thing you do. It could be even be comedy. I know many artists who came out initially as comedians, and next thing you know, they've got an album, but then they've got 500,000 people who like their jokes.
Right.
And 10% of them buy the music, then, you know, they're sorted. So it's about being creative, as you say, and adapting. Because even when it comes to releasing music, the way we release music 3 years ago is not how we release it now. I mean, I released an album in 2018. I put a single out and then I put the album out. And I'm one of those people who I like to reevaluate and see how I've done in the past, learn from my mistakes and do better. And I realized that that strategy, whilst it was great back then, do 2 singles and put an album out, it's not great now because you tend to have 1 or 2 songs shine, unless you're like really good, you've got massive following where everyone would just go and stream the whole album. There's going to be a couple of songs that do great and then some just don't get the light of day. So I just learned the importance of putting out as many singles from the project as possible, using the same ISRC code. And I'm giving some tips now, my own secrets, putting it out there, using the same ISRC code when you put the singles out as when you put the album out, because once the album comes out on day 1, all the streams that you've got from the single are already on the album. And that helps get your, you know, get the kind of momentum, if you like, from day 1. But that's because it's evolving. Only God knows what's going to happen 2 years from now. It could be completely different and we could be left behind. For all you know, in the future, if you have a podcast and you release an album, something would link with it. And next thing you know, so you just don't know. And that's why we need to keep learning and keep evolving with the times, responding with the evolving times, because it's going to keep evolving, sadly.
Your
right or wrongly.
byproducts are as important as your music, because
that's
what's going to give sustainability. It's the byproducts.
That's so good.
And Adegail?
I guess with me, I would say, especially to my generation, don't be afraid to do the work. I know there's so many people, they're just, honestly, it is laziness to a degree. They just don't want to do the work. They just want to, I guess, release something and it goes viral and then they're sorted for the rest of their life. And a lot of people have that mentality. Obviously, we'd all love to go viral, but yeah, don't be afraid to learn for yourself, to search for yourself, to ask the questions, to try and unlearn things and retry and just keep pushing. Because I think I've learned even from my first single, you just have to work hard. And that's okay, because you will see the fruit, especially if you're trying to do this for the long run rather than just kind of have peaks and then just fall away. So definitely don't be afraid to work hard. Another thing I would say to my generation especially is, I guess, yes, there's people out there who, you know, you see have peaks, but don't compare yourself, and just know that it's important to just develop your own knowledge again. And a lot of those people may not even necessarily have tried, and it just happened, and they don't know how it happened, and they don't know how to replicate.
That's the worst thing, you know. The worst success is a success you can't know, you don't understand, so you can't repeat. It's like, how did I get here? I don't know, so I can't do it again.
That's what I say to people who do events, that when we start to build the event, it's I'm going to get this much profit if I sell. That's not the important thing. The important thing is to understand when you break even, because then you can figure out the formula from there on is profit. So that is actually important. I'm going to do a class about gospel event economy.
I like that.
I think I might call it how to do events without remortgaging your house. Because in the gospel industry, we've got a huge appetite for some big names, but we don't know how these promoters are getting them here. A lot of us have suffered as a result of it. So there's a whole economy to events. We can have a whole conversation about that. That differs from the regular formats. Or marketing an event to our audience, which is second to none. Second to none.
Yeah, and I've seen that with iRadiate, just learning to pivot, and that goes on to the last point of learning to pivot. I think you don't have to just be that musician. You can have so many other hats too, because I think oftentimes people complain about, the church puts me in a box, but oftentimes we put ourselves in the box and we're just afraid to go to different avenues and do that multiple things for fear of whatever. So I think definitely learn to pivot, especially in this pandemic. It's like the most amazing environment to pivot. And so I think I would have loved to see so many more people pivot and to just learn to be good at different things and learn to use your skills and monetize it. But yeah, I want to see better for my generation.
Very good. Good.
I'm just typing.
I see Lisa said sewing is the key. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Learn to also, use and monetize your skills, because I think sometimes we feel like I can't make money. And it kind of brings us back to what we said about spirituality, where we sometimes don't want to make, for the right or wrong reasons, we don't want to make money from our skills, but we do need to. Whether it's a skill on, even comparing. I know somebody who's very, very extroverted and very good at comparing. And during lockdown, she started doing Zoom hosting. Nobody learns this in school, right? So they took advantage of the situation, and they put themselves out as a specialist in hosting Zoom things. And the truth is, there are people who couldn't be bothered with fiddling with technology. If you can come on and set everything up and just compare the thing, and everyone was doing stuff online, and that's a skill. They talk a lot. They're very talkative, and next thing they know, they're making some money off the back of the pandemic by hosting shows on Zoom or hosting people's events for them on Zoom. So I think that's been really, really insightful. And I know there's been a lot of comments on Facebook and YouTube as well. There's just been so many and so much engagement. Thank you so much to everyone who's been watching on YouTube, watching on Facebook. Please share this link if you haven't already. Share the Facebook link, share the YouTube link. There's so much wealth of knowledge that we've taken from today. I've learned a lot from having these beautiful ladies on the panel as well. And I think if there's one takeaway, if there's nothing else you learned from today, please go onto GMIA. Go and register for the courses that are there. I've registered for a couple myself. We can never stop learning. As a matter of fact, we should never stop learning. The moment we feel like we don't need any more knowledge, we begin to deteriorate, because yesterday's knowledge is redundant today. Yesterday's technology advancements are redundant today. So that would be one takeaway point I'll give to you guys. Watch it back if you need to. Make some notes. I've tried to make some key takeaway points from today's session, so you can watch back, write them down. If you can, try and have a plan for your development. You have to own it. Even if you did a day job, you would be responsible for your own development, your training. You'd be going to your boss and going, I want to go on this training or that training. You are your own boss in music. So you have to take responsibility and ownership of your personal development. So we started out by saying the assessment was, rightly or wrongly, that there is a gap to the tune of, on a scale of 1 to 10, between 7 and 9. Anywhere in between, maybe 8. And it does highlight a massive need for us to take ownership of our development. There's so much information out there. There is money out there, I'm glad to hear. But we need to equip ourselves on how we can take advantage of all the opportunities that are available. So I'm going to leave you guys on that note. I want to thank the guests on the panel, Adegail, Audrey, Charisse. How can people contact you on socials if they have more questions, if they want to learn more about the stuff that you do? Do you want to give us your handles, or even if you're happy to share your email? Anyway, people can contact you and get more information from you, and then we wrap it up. So we'll start with Adegail.
Yeah, so you can find me at Adegail, but in terms of the events, it's at iRadiate. We do frequent workshops and events, and yeah, it's been a blessing to many people. So
awesome. Charisse?
I'm on mute. You can contact us on blim.org.uk, blim.org.uk. Come and see what we do, and we do mentoring as well. So let us signpost you and help you and get you to where you need to get to.
And Audrey?
Yeah, so you can contact me by going to industrydeveloper.com and at gmia.org.uk. You can go to the website. There is a link to contact us there as well. And please go to the website and subscribe for one of our subscriber plans. All the workshops that we're doing are actually free when you subscribe. So we're trying to populate that community so we can have discussions within that community. When you log in, you'll realize it's a kind of Facebooky kind of world.
It is. It's a chatting. Yeah, that's true.
Connect artists and your peers together so you can have full discussions and share knowledge inside the portal effectively as well. So so I'm really looking forward to the workshops starting and people being empowered, really.
Yes, that's what it's all about. Well, I'm not going to take too much more of your time. I know we need to go to bed. It's still a school night for me and the kids, so I need to make sure they're actually asleep. But no, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, the knowledge that you've poured out today. It's been just, I'm going to watch this back myself, in all honesty. It's been
and
really,
she
really
will,
insightful.
and make full notes, transcripts. She will.
Oh my goodness. Thanks to everyone who's joined watching on YouTube and Facebook. Have a great week. Have a great have a great night rest and a great rest of the week, and stay safe. God bless you all. And next week we're going to have another Equilibrium Live. So make note of that, and I'll see you next week. God bless.